Genghis Khan. What words usually come to mind when you hear that? Savage, barbarian, cruel conqueror. What about ideas like the freedom of religion or diplomatic immunity, the spread of technology? I'm here to actually tell you about Genghis Khan and what the Mongols did positively for the world and not the negative view that so many people have of them. So I'm going to try and persuade you that they actually changed a lot of better for the world. I would even say more better than they did worse for everything. So I'll go ahead and start off by showing you how Genghis Khan formed Mongolia from what was pretty much nothing. When Genghis Khan was growing up, the whole area of Mongolia was just nomadic tribes. Each nomadic tribe was separate. Each one would steal from another, kill other tribesmen. There was no unity between them. As Genghis Khan rose to power, he actually ended up uniting all of these people together under one Khan, which was himself. Now, once he had them all united together, what he did was he introduced what was called the Great Yasa. The Yasa was a code of laws, and this code of laws there was quite a few of them. They were only known to him, but he actually made it so everyone under him knew what all of them were at all times. And they weren't only for all of the Mongol people, it was also for anyone they conquered to follow as well. And these things included such things as freedom of religion. As long as you accepted that Genghis Khan was the leader, you could do whatever you want. He said you could praise God however you wanted to see fit. It didn't bother him at all. You can do your own thing. It also proposed tax exemptions if you were a clergyman, a doctor, a lawyer, anything like that. You were actually free from taxes. A pretty revolutionary thing to come up with at the time. Also, there was a hunting season. There was a set number of months that you couldn't hunt because they knew better than anyone how the land worked, how ecosystems functioned, and they knew when to let stuff grow back and how not to mess up anything that they lived off of. He was also an incredibly inspiring leader, pretty much one of a kind in order to get all of these people together. Across his 60 years as a warrior, he actually never had any general desert him or betray him. When you look at any other great military leader over history, you're really not going to find anyone else that could have pulled that feat. Every guy under him was fiercely loyal to him till the very end. Another big thing is Genghis Khan himself was illiterate, yet he still came up with a common language for the entire Mongolian people. I mean, this was with the help of some of his advisors, but still under him he said we need to have a common language for all of us as a people. And this language lasted all the way up until the late 20th century when the Soviets took over and forced their language upon the Mongolians. So you've got 600 years of one language for these people. A pretty extraordinary act from a bloodthirsty conqueror. Genghis was so big for making a unity and a name for his people. He was quoted with saying, "If my body dies, let my body die, but do not let my country die." So I've explained how Genghis Khan brought all of the Mongolians together. Now we'll get into how he actually connected the cultures across all of Asia and even parts of Europe. As you can see in this map, this is showing at the height of his power what he held. And you've got China over here, and it goes all the way over into almost modern-day Hungary, the very fringe of Europe. So this was actually the largest contiguous land empire ever held in the world. And what he did was, China had already had some trade routes already built. They actually helped maintain these, make them better, build new routes, and helped reconnect actually the Far East to the west of Europe. They helped revitalize the trade that had been gone for a long time. They made it easier, they made it safe to travel along there so you could go through with no problem. They even, because of these trade routes, and they made them so much safer and better, this literally paved the way for Marco Polo in the 13th century to go across from Europe into China on his expeditions. That was the Mongols that laid the framework for that, actually. What they also did for these trade routes is they improved them a lot. By about every 20 to 30 miles, they'd build little stations. These stations would have a guide who could go with you. He knew the lay of the land. He could help you get through the next place you were going. There was horses you could swap out. even really luxurious rooms with silks and stuff that normally was reserved for kings. They just had enough wealth, they could build these little stations that you could stop at and revitalize. Another thing they also did was they pretty much built a postal service across this entire landmass. And this originally was for military purposes, so Genghis could know what was going on at any time among the people. But it grew from that, just like most things, into this common civilian use, so people could get word to each other across this entire entire nation. And it worked just like the Pony Express would in the 1800s in the U.S. Of the ponies at the stations waiting, just like those relay stations. Another thing they built was in Iran, a place called the House of Healing. And this was, as Jack Weatherford describes in his book Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World, page 229, it was a combination hospital, research center, and training facility in the medical knowledge of both East and West. What he did was he actually took the greatest minds of Indian medicine, Christian doctors, Muslim doctors, put them all together into one place, and just said, hey, let's just come up with the best ideas all together. This was something pretty radical, because before, these people would never be working together. They would either be culturally isolated, just the distance, it wouldn't be safe to get over there, or one of the main things, you've got ideological differences. The Muslim and Christian doctors, medieval times, they're not going to work together. But because they're all solidified under this Mongol rule, the Mongols come in and say, no, you're going to work together. And this was for the betterment for everyone. This vastly improved the technologies, because you've got the Arabics bringing stuff like their math over to China that wasn't as developed in that. China's bringing its more advanced technology over to the West, stuff like gunpowder and machines they built that other people didn't have. So really everyone's benefiting from this together at the same time, all under Genghis's rule. This was all his idea to make everything better. It was actually also said by Jack Weatherford on page 234 that the Mongols had the power, at least temporarily, to impose new international systems of technology, agriculture, and knowledge that superseded the predilections or prejudices of any single civilization. You'd really be hard-pressed to find anyone else that could pull off a feat like that. Usually you've got people that they want to just come in, impose their way, you do it our way, whether it be the church or the state's ideas, you have to do it like this. No, with the Mongols they're very pragmatic. Let's get the best from all around, have them work together, and let's see what we can come up from there. So now, talk to you about the cultures. I'll get into one of the big misconceptions about Genghis. A lot of people always just think he's a savage barbarian who just wanted bloodlust. He just wanted to raise the town, pillage the town, and just go around wrecking stuff. That wasn't how he worked. What he'd actually do is he'd send emissaries to a place first and offer them a choice. You can either submit to us under our rule, you'll pay tribute, you'll give us an army if we ask, and in turn we provide you complete protection, and you'll be able to carry on as normally, as long as you respect us as your leaders. Now if they resisted that request, then they would be destroyed, but this wasn't as common. And because you only have to destroy a few towns completely, it's the fear that's really getting these other people to go under, so you don't have to keep destroying it. Genghis knew it's a lot better to have a town under you than completely destroy it. Otherwise, you've just completely wasted everything in it. Another thing they'd also do is they would actually spare all the scholars and clergymen as a respect to those professions. But one big thing that a lot of people don't seem to see is if you look back at the Crusades, the Christian Crusades against the Muslims, they actually offered the same exact thing. They said, join under the cross or die. But you take a look at Pope Urban II, no one really views him as the barbarian, even though he's doing the exact same thing Genghis did. He's just trying to move on, he's giving an ultimatum, but no one really paints him as the bad guy or a barbarian. He's accepted as this kind of crusader fellow. So, in conclusion, I've talked about how the Mongols, they connected people that would have never been together. They got technology all across Asia that was for the betterment of all the people. They linked the East to the West. This would be influential for years to come. I hope that today you've actually got a better understanding of how the Mongols really functioned, and you see them in a different light than you did before. that they actually provided a more positive influence to the world that we know today. Thanks.